Doug Collins. When Doug was hired as head coach of the Chicago Bulls, he beat out a candidate by the name of Phil Jackson. Now, most of y'all know Phil Jackson right off the top of the dome. If I say Doug Collins, y'all start thinking about the guy that's doing the broadcast. Well, before then, he was still doing broadcasting back then, but Doug was very knowledgeable on the game of basketball. Won a championship playing for Philadelphia. Tough, gritty. Had just what the Bulls needed at that time to be the head coach. So, when you got a player, and a coach and a player who's been in these type of situations, you can kind of understand, like, okay, this is a type of person we need on the team. And he's going to help, get these personalities and everybody in line. Now, granted, they have Michael Jordan on the team. One of the most spectacular athletes, the team has ever had. So, they want to make sure they manage this correctly as Jordan's stock is growing. That someone don't come in here and alter it, but come in and enhance the team. And since Doug's arrival, Doug done just that. He whooped a team that was basically a soft team. The Bulls were soft. They played soft basketball, finesse, and everybody was not as rugged as they needed to be. And Doug was that fiery coach that was going to take and demand action and expect the excellence out of his players, even Michael Jordan. Now, what the world saw is that Michael had a great ability to take over a game. And these type of situations between the two led to Doug only trusting Michael. Oh my gosh, I done banged my elbow. But only trusting Michael in clutch situations. Where this time Phil Jackson and Tex Winters would have some, let's use Michael as a decoy and use the entire team. Where Doug has the philosophy of, yeah, we're going to pass it to one guy, he's going to get it to Michael, and Michael's going to shoot it. That's why we got Sam Vincent. Do you think I want Sam Vincent taking this shot? So we're going to get Sam Vincent to get a ball over to Michael, and that's it. So, while Sam Vincent's in the game, he's getting the ball over to Michael, and Michael Jordan shoots, and they miss, and they lose the game. Now they're in there like, I told you that play, they were waiting for that play. They gave Michael the ball in that position because Michael was like 1 for 7 in that position getting the ball, and he hasn't been strong on that side. We should have ran this play here. And he got tired of listening to Tex, and then Doug just started blocking them out and just didn't listen. And the only person he really could talk to anyway was Johnny. Phil Jackson wanted the job, and they was like, well, Phil, not at this time. You could be an assistant coach. We like you, Phil. So they gave Phil a job as the assistant under Doug. This is not somebody Doug selected. Doug was like, okay, they gave me this guy as my assistant coach. So, all right, I'll deal with him. As the Bulls are improving, they're winning games. They're getting better and better. And it's like, man, they're getting up there. The Bulls are doing stuff they've never done before. They actually went in playoff games and going to the next round. It's like, what's going on with the Bulls? And in comes the end of the 88 season when they lose to Detroit. After a great season, they went the furthest they've ever went as a team. And they win one game, I think, against Detroit. And then they lost. And once that happened, it was a change at the guards. It's like Charles Oakley was out, Bill Cartwright was in. Now, the problem was with Oakley is he didn't want Oakley no more. Oakley wasn't listening. Oakley wasn't practicing hard enough. He thought Oakley was too buddy-buddy with Michael Jordan. So a change came into play. And Phil kind of lobbied, and this is what Phil Jackson thing would do. He would always go back and tell Reinsdorf or Jerry Krause everything that Phil was doing wrong. I mean, Doug was doing wrong. Phil would go back, Jerry, let me talk to you for a minute. Yeah, I kind of agree with his sentiments with Oakley. But if we can do a trade with New York, I think we can get Bill Cartwright. Cartwright has great range, great length, and it's going to add some depth in the post where we're a little weak there. And then we can give Michael a break because we're leaning too much on Michael and we don't want to wear him down. So he'd go back and say all this to them because he felt that Doug wouldn't listen to him, and Doug had every reason not to listen to Phil. Because Phil, whole time he was there, wasn't thinking about what's best for the team. He's thinking about what's best for Phil. He played this game as if I'm just going to play the role. And that's what he did. It was smart. And that's why Doug didn't trust him. But he made it look as if Doug doesn't trust me because he's paranoid. Doug is stressed. Doug is wearing himself out. So they created this whole backstory because eventually Doug has broken he hit every bonus the Chicago Bulls had for him in his contract. He had one more year left in that contract, and then it was time to pay Doug. And they were going to have to pay Doug through the nose because he was going to request for more money. So during the 88 season, when they got Bill Cartwright, when 89 hit, it was all this turmoil through the entire season with Doug Collins. All with Phil. The argument that he had with Phil Jackson and his coaches over plays, and Michael Jordan's running the point guard now this season. And they're like, well, you're putting Michael more at use. He says, no, Michael can rest. He can see the court better, because he doesn't have to fight through picks and do all this stuff. He's bringing the ball up. He's the point guard. He can attack when he needs to, and he can see all the holes in the lanes. So this is actually a way to rest Michael Jordan. He don't have to extend himself so much as he does if he was the two guard. He's got to run through picks, get in the post, and post up. Michael can create more from the point. So I eliminated that problem by making him the point guard, so I don't have to hear about Michael needs rest. And Michael like, I don't need any rest, but y'all keep telling Doug Michael needs rest. You're going to wear Michael out. Michael's going to get tired. And we need to play Bill Cartwright more. And Bill's not getting enough minutes. And Doug's like, well, which one is it? Am I not playing Will Perdue? Or am I not playing Bill Cartwright? They can't both be on the court at the same time. So what do you want me to do? If I play Bill Cartwright, you say, well, you ain't playing Will Perdue. I play Will Perdue, you say I'm not playing Bill Cartwright. What is it that y'all want me to do here? So Doug's like, well, tell me what the roster should be. What do you want to see on this court? And then Doug is fiery. Doug would yell. Doug would do all these things, and it would scare. I mean, literally just scare the rest of the team. Like Phil Phil Jackson and Scottie Pippen both were scared to death of Doug Collins. Scottie was already a timid player to begin with mentally, and he wasn't mentally tough. So whenever Doug would yell at him, he would be so afraid to make a mistake, he wouldn't even shoot on the court. And that's when Doug was like, my God, we're going to get rid of him next year. He was talking about getting rid of Scottie Pippen at the end of the season because he didn't like. And then they're like, well, Horace Grant is coming along, so. And he was saying that Horace, he's okay. He needs to work out more. He needs to develop more. Doug was playing Horace Grant. I don't understand what the owner or management problem was, but then things started to unfold. They kept saying that Doug wanted a new contract, but he also wanted to have Jerry Krause's position. He was pushing to have Jerry Krause removed, who was the GM, and trying to slip his way in. Now, Jerry Krause is the one that fought to get Doug Collins the job. So this, of course, is going to make Reinsdorf upset because he's like, hey, this guy went to bat for you. And now you're like, forget him, we don't need him anymore? Like, what kind of loyalty is that? So, naturally he's upset about it. So he's like, you know what, there's no loyalty here. This guy's not loyal. So he was already thinking, I got to get rid of Doug, and we just can't wait another year. We'll just pay him. But they're like, well, where are we going to get another coach from? We got to go out and look for a coach, and who's going to let Phil coach the team. Phil's pretty good. I've been having a lot of conversations with Phil. I think Phil could be a good coach. Let's see what Phil does. We already got the pieces in play. Let's see what Phil does. Because the Bulls went and overachieved in the playoffs greater than anybody ever managed. After a terrible 89 season, they entered as the underdogs in every round of the playoffs. They didn't have home field advantage at all. And they beat Cleveland. And then they didn't have home field against the Knicks, home court, and they beat the Knicks. They became like the miracle team, and people were like, they're going to do it. So people was all excited that they were going to finally topple, the NBA ranks. And, of course, Detroit was just too talented and just blew straight through them. So when that happened, they were in a dilemma where they were stuck. Meaning that they were in a position where they had to show that we're trying to get to the next level. This is as far as Doug could go. Because the fans didn't understand it. They're like, look, we just went as far as we went, and next year it looked like we're going to win the championship. And now you want to change coaches? So in comes Phil Jackson. And Doug right away knew what was happening once they did that. He couldn't believe he was betrayed by his own coaching staff. Because he was always taught that's something you just don't do. It's just something you don't do. You never, ever, ever sabotage your head coach. That was like a rule, especially if you was on the coaching staff. Johnny Bach didn't agree with it, but they kept Johnny, and they kept Tex Winter, and Phil was in charge. So now he went and got another assistant coach, which was Clemens, and that was it. He was rolling with his team. It was now Phil's team. And as you saw when Phil took over, he came in with a whole different philosophy. Doug was all abrupt. Phil is more behind the scenes, conniving, or talk to you in a language. He don't talk directly to you. He talk around you. And then you gotta like figure out what he's saying or else. It's like, Phil, what do you want, Phil? Well, you know how when a man becomes a better man, what are you saying? I should be the bigger man, Phil? Yeah, that's a way to think about it. Well, just say that, Phil. That's why him and Kobe collided so much. Kobe's a person that likes to hear things directly, like get to the point. I don't need the song and dance. Phil's gonna song and dance you to death. And Michael could relate to it because he thinks it's funny. And then when he comes to his philosophy, his Zen, all his books, he's giving these guys books to read. Read the philosophy. Let's all become a unit. Let's all. But what it did was, and what I think Phil did help the Bulls at, is everybody knew their job. He helped bring them more together by catering to all of their egos. Like for Scottie Pippen especially, Scottie needed to be felt like he was important. And with Doug, that was never going to happen. With Phil, he had a chance to enhance somebody like Scottie Pippen and say, I need you guys. I need you, Scottie. I need you today. I need you to do this. Scottie made the most dramatic improvement from 89 to 90 than any player probably, I don't know, and maybe it was just confidence, but his ball handling skills improved like tremendously, and he just had a breakout year in 1990 because at his athletic ability, his problem is he had troubles handling the ball. I don't know if it was mental or whatever, but he just got physical and got tough and got pumped up. He was energized. He was playing well, and he made the All-Star team for the first time in his career. Now, going into the 1990 season, you had Horace Grant, who was hitting the weight room, getting more physical, but becoming more reliable with hitting that little short-range jump shot. He was adding some moves. He was working from waist to legs on, just dealing with the physicality of the game and not shying away, being young in the situations that he was in. They needed him to step up too. And Pax, the old veteran, on the team, he was trusted more. As Sam Vincent was dealt away, they relied like, no, we got to stick with the veteran Paxson in this situation. Pax will get us there. He knows the game. Pax knows how to run the plays. And it was a reassurance that Phil gave them. Like, you guys are my guys. I'm going to stick with you. I'm going to help and believe in you. That's something Doug couldn't do. Either you were the type of player Doug Collins liked and could coach, or you were just out the door. There was no wiggle room. It was Doug's way. Don't like it, tough. With Phil, he's going to cuddle you and give them this confidence they needed. But the Bulls knew all the plays that they were going to run. They knew most of the defensive plays that was going to be used against them. And it was just going out now and going through the motions of the regular season. So during this season, Phil Jackson is still like in an assistant coach mode. The lights and cameras are on him. They're interviewing him. He looks like a doofus out there. He doesn't know how to talk to the media. His dressing is like way off the chart. His suits, everything was just like straight off the rack. It's like, my goodness, like somebody's got to help Phil. He's making the Bulls look bad. Doug had suits. Like, hey, you gotta step it up here. As the Bulls start winning, like after that first season was over and they lose to Detroit in 7 games, the next season they come back. Doug's suits are a little bit better. They're fitting. and not baggy, and not slanging up, hanging over him. You know, he's speaking with a lot more confidence, dealing with the media better. He goes all the way to win the championship that year. And things started to change from the first championship to the second one. Phil changed. Phil, eyes got a little bit beadier. Confidence went a lot, all the way up to it, got to a level of arrogance. And then for the first time, they started to see, like, oh my God, this is the real Phil Jackson. We've been played all these years. He's an arrogant prick. Like, yep. I was an arrogant prick all along. So now he's demanding things. Phil want this. Phil want that. Phil think we should do this. Well, Phil say he wants to do it this way. Phil wants to do it that way. Phil isn't calling shots. Phil got rid of Johnny Bach. Phil got rid of this guy. Phil is doing this interview in this magazine and he's saying this about Jerry Krause. Jerry Krause is this. Jerry Krause is that. And now he don't like Jerry Krause. And it's like, man, Jerry? Now you want Jerry's job too? Isn't that something? It's the same thing that happened with Doug. What is it about Jerry that they don't like? And then Michael didn't have a liking for Jerry Krause. So, like, Michael would clash with Tex sometime, and then he would clash with Jerry. But he respected Tex because Tex was a genius with coming up with these plays. Phil is famous for the triangle offense that Tex Winter designed. It's Tex Winter's plays, but they credited all to Phil Jackson, which is the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. But hey, it works. He's the head coach. So let's give all the credit to Phil. Phil's setting up the triangle. I'm like, Phil ain't doing nothing but moving his hand. He's going to go get a seat and sit for the rest of the game. Phil Jackson has conned the entire NBA public and everybody into believing he's this outstanding coach. All he is was a good representative. Stu Jackson, who also was a Knick, who was also NBA in the office. He also talked with Phil Jackson. They both read the same books. He's great with everybody in the NBA office. He could have been an executive for the league. That's how plugged he had got after the Bulls was winning these championships, and people were talking to Phil. There's a philosophy and all of these things. That's when the temptation to bring him from the Bulls, when his run was coming to an end, they're like, we need this guy with the Lakers. That's what we need. We need him and LA. So after the Bulls' run was over, they bring him to the Lakers. And as soon as he get there, they win championship. They win 3 championships in a row. They go to the finals, I think, 4 times in a row or something like that. But all I know is they won 3. Phil leaves, they come back, they win another 3. Or they win 2 or something like that. Yeah, they didn't win 3, they won 2. But they went 3 more times to the final. So, wherever Phil go, they were going to bless him with success. And all the other coaches didn't like Phil because they felt that the NBA kind of gave Phil the gentleman's pat on the back. And Doug kind of got the screw in of the job. Doug, that's why when the Pistons had beat the Bulls, and it was just a regular season game, Doug cried like he did, emotionally, because he felt this organization destroyed what he had built. He was building that team to win a world championship, and it was taken from him in a manner that was unmanly, and Phil backstabbed him for the job. And it's what happened. Phil was calculating like that. Then, he gets divorced from his wife because his arrogance was too high. And when he went to the Lakers, he get with Jenny Buss, which she was hot. But she's like, this is like dating her father. But when you got your father who owns the Lakers and his girlfriend is 19, this is understandable. But this is leading up to the problems with the Lakers to this day. The brother cannot stand Phil Jackson. And since his dad ain't there to protect Phil is never going to be in LA. He's never coming on that Laker team as long as the brother is there. Because the brother don't like Phil Jackson dating his sister. He's compulsed about the whole situation, does not like it one out. So that led to all the Lakers' woes and everything to where they are right now. But Phil got bailed out. They gave him the next job. A job that shows Phil Jackson cannot run a team. He doesn't know what he's doing. All of his expertise in the field that everybody thought that he was so smart and such a great genius, all of a sudden people realizing this man don't know nothing. We got conned. I'm like, yeah, you believed in his ability to speak and mistaken it for intelligence, and thought Phil Jackson was this great, outstanding coach, without realizing the fact that Michael Jordan was out there on that court. You had some players out there that actually knew what they were doing. They knew their role, okay? I won't say Phil didn't play a part. He did. But to think he's the know-all, be-all of everything, well, let's just say they're learning that mistake now, because they can't even get a head coach to stay with the organization. You hire your buddy Derek Fisher, in which you can control Derek and still run plays on the court. Now they had what? They fired Derek Fisher because he can't stop screwing things. So they're like, look, Derek is ruining the team. He's not making the team better. He's just getting a check. So basically, Phil has wasted all this money on Derek Fisher, which they got to pay Derek. And now they got to spend all this money on, didn't they bring, Jay Havlicek or somebody in there? Havlicek stole the ball? No, Hornacek. So now you got Hornacek coming in. And who knows what's going to happen there. But as far as like holding a grudge or beef or anything like that, Phil never did that. Phil let everything go. He did not, for one iota, say, you know what, I can't talk to that guy. Doug can do his job as unbiased as anybody I've ever seen. I mean it. Just completely unbiased. Does not hold any grudge or animosity toward Phil whatsoever. Always giving him credit. Always complimented his coaching ability, the style, or whatever the game is. Doug has shown himself to be the ultimate professional when it comes to dealing with that situation. Only one time people have ever seen it is when he broke down and cried when the Pistons, and he was head coach of the Detroit Pistons. And he just broke down and cried because it was so emotional for him. And I felt for Doug, you know. Now, that's it for today, folks. We'll hit you up another time and talk about some other things. I gotta still go through this paperwork. I'm out.